Hello, Novali. How are you doing? And a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to speak about numerology today because you're a numerologist, a professional one, and you were actually an artist and an actress before from Denmark, and you turned a professional numerologist and writer, and now you live in LA and you're helping people through your school of numerologists and through your book a little bit about numerology. And you also have a brilliant masterclass, and I'm so honored about that in our Wisdom from North membership. So for everyone who's curious about numerology, you should check out this masterclass in our membership, and you can read all about it in the link below. And that's Numerology 101, what your numbers reveal. And basically, today, I hope to learn a bit more about numerology as well and share it with our audience, because I'm very interested in numbers, and I became interested in numbers because I started to see numbers everywhere, and not just numbers, but the same number. And we'll get into that, like master numbers and base numbers and everything. But let me just jump into, why are you so passionate about numerology?
Oh, for all the reasons. But I guess my passion came from my own name change. I think if I hadn't felt like the effect of numerology in my own life, it would have stayed kind of like a theory, something abstract, something like, oh, that's kind of fun. I have been introduced and tried like different esoteric or spiritual tools, like you have gotten astrology reading or human design reading or worked in like with other things, but like numerology, I know I had a friend who changed her name, and I was like, this is strange that you're doing that. Like, I'm having feelings and thoughts about it. And then a lot of things in her life shifted and changed. And because I knew her really well, I knew that some of these things were stuff she had worked on for a very long time and nothing had changed. And suddenly, with this name change of hers, stuff was like shifting in like a very profound way. And at the time, I was in acting school in New York and feeling kind of stuck. And I was like, let me just try this. Let me just try this thing. And I was maybe also like in a position because like I had moved away from home. I had sold a bunch of stuff to be able to afford this school. I was around new people who didn't have like a long defined history and perception of me. So I was like, I can change my name and people will probably be cool about it. So I went to a numerologist. I had a session. My mind was blown. I changed my name. And then everything changed. And it's, of course, hard to understand if you haven't gone through it, but it's like both internal shifts of like your own understanding of yourself, how you see yourself, self-worth, self-image, stuff like that. But it was also like my surroundings. I felt like I was being treated differently. People reacted to me differently. I felt way more powerful. I fell in love with a guy where I was like, oh, normally I would sabotage this. Like I would, because I like to sabotage romantic relationships. But it was like I don't know, soul meeting, karmic, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, now we're married and we live in LA. So clearly it worked out. So my passion just stemmed from that one name change. And I was like, this is so crazy. How does it work? I have to learn how it works.
I just have to express my laugh or whatever is coming out. I'm just so amazed by hearing this. I feel like change your name, change your life. I mean, it sounds like that. And how is this possible? Can you tell us sort of the science behind changing a name? Like what is the magic behind that?
Yeah, so kind of like in astrology where we have sun signs and you can kind of have like a map, a horoscope where you can see, okay, I was born on that date, the planets were like this. I am this expression of like universal forces, and like this is my personality, and this is my issues with my mother, or I'm good at communicating, whatever. All of this, this like mapping out of a person happens in numerology as well, just through numbers. And so we're all supposed to be a certain expression of energy in the world. We all have issues with expressing that energy. I have yet to meet someone who doesn't have like some kind of like, I know what I'm supposed to be or what I'm supposed to do, or like I feel this pull, and then I have all this shit in the way. And instead of doing the thing, I deal with the shit. And that's just how it goes. And one of the things we look at in numerology is the names. So the name is kind of like a filter on that energy that you're supposed to express, or the energy that you are. So it brings in like a filter on how people see you. We understand this in this day and age of filters and Instagram. We understand sometimes what you're looking at on a screen is not actually what's going on the other side. And that is such a good image for the name. So sometimes like what you think you are expressing and what people are seeing is two different things. And it can be very frustrating. Very, very frustrating in life to be perceived differently than we think we show up. And names can also attract certain personality patterns, relationships.
But why is that? What is the science behind it?
Yeah, so like, I mean, there is an energy behind every letter in your name, and that is connected to a number. And so when we add the numbers up, we get the whole like energy behind that name, or vibration, whatever resonates with you, energy, vibration, filter.
Right. And that's what you're teaching us in that masterclass, to find our
Yes.
base number. So I can't remember. I remember when I edited it, I found my base number, but now I forgot it. But do you mean like if I change my name that, okay, so Jannike has a certain base number. Let's say it's 4. I don't remember, but let's say it's 4. And then you mean that maybe I'm not supposed to be a 4. I'm supposed to be a 9. Is that what you mean?
I mean, based on your birthday, you will have a base number. So, like, we all have base numbers. The base number
birthday,
is determined by the day you were born. Yes.
Right.
And then the name vibration comes from your name.
The main vibration comes from the name.
Name vibration, yes. Yes.
Name vibration. Okay. So, okay, yeah. So there's a number behind your name, and there's a number behind your birth date.
Yeah. And so those two should work together. And if they don't work together, that's where we get in trouble.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Because I don't know my name number. Okay. But what about, my parents are choosing my name. Isn't that predestined in a way? Am I not supposed to have that name? Like I'm supposed to be born at that date, and that there are no coincidences in the universe? I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't think there are any coincidences. Like we all will get names, like your parents will pass on name vibrations that they know. This is like just fact. We always pass on what we know. So if they have a problematic name vibration, even if they pick a different name, it might have the same vibration. Many names have the same base vibration. So of course you will get the last name, which everyone in your family will probably share. And that vibration will be strong in your family, and it will be strong when you get together. So that's why like sometimes a name can be like maybe fine just for you, but you might find when you get together with a lot of your family that it'll get very strong and overwhelming. And this is also why sometimes when people change their name, they might have an easier time being around their family because they no longer share or amplify a vibration in that family. And so people pass on what they know. So what your parents are carrying, they will pass on to you. And maybe it fit them, but it might not fit you, or it might fit differently. And I like through numeroscopes, which is like all the numbers in your name and your birthday and how they work together, we can see like how you fit into that family. So like in that way, it's, I don't know if you want to call it predestined, because I feel like sometimes people are very like, oh, the name is the name. And then I'm like, well, a lot of people get adopted their parents get divorced. They change a last name, they hyphenate, women get married, they take their partner's name, then they get divorced, they go back to their maiden name, they meet a new guy, they take a new name. So like there's a lot of name changes happening in society. And then at the same time, we're also very like precious sometimes around names, to a degree where sometimes I'm like, it's not your identity. It's just a sound or a word that people say or write to to say like, I'm talking to you. And of course, names are beautiful. I mean, I'm obsessed with names and they're beautiful. And I love when my clients like come up with new name combinations and show their personality through them. But as someone who's now changed her name more than once, I also realized that like we put a lot of stock and identity and things that don't like matter in such a like, oh, I can't touch it. Like it's like, of course you can touch it. Of course you can change it. Of course you can play around with it. Of course it could change over time. A lot of different societies and cultures around the world have like name changes as like rites of passage. So you might have one name as a child and you have another name once you grow up, or when you go from like a certain state of being to another.
How do you know if you have a good vibration in your name?
Well, you can look it up. Like if you looked in my book, A Little Bit of Numerology, then you can calculate your name vibration. You can also do it online. I have a name calculator where you can calculate the vibration. And then you can see what the vibration is. And I find for this, it's like, don't just look up yourself. Look up other people as well. Look at your family. See if you can see this vibration happening in their life. And also some vibrations might be beneficial for some people. There's a category of name vibrations that are good, great. And there's a category of name vibrations that I wish no one carries. Would just be like, we should just ditch those. They are not great for anyone. But then there's also just, in our base numbers, we have a bunch of them that are supposed to be leaders, and they have life goals and lessons around leadership. And then we have a bunch of name vibrations that have to do with sensitivity and empathy and being, having a very little boundaries, not a lot of shielding. If you combine these two, leadership and sensitivity, in extreme ways, you get a very like a leader that's a wuss where they have a hard time following their goals or standing behind their decisions or like pursuing that leadership. Where we have another group of base numbers that are here to have more fun, be more artistic, be more creative, be more expressive. You add a name vibration that has to do with sensitivity and going with the flow, that might work really well for them. So the name vibration is not just like good or bad. It's also like, who are you and what you're supposed to do?
That makes sense.
Or, I mean, it could also be like you have a life lesson about communication. Like you're here to communicate, be and channel, like exchange ideas, touch a lot of people's lives. But you have a name vibration that has to do with unexpressed anger and aggression. And suddenly, like that clear channel that should be easy, you're being perfectionistic, you're overthinking it, you're putting up barriers for yourself. And other people say, oh, that communication looks so easy for you. And you go, no, I'm working really hard and judging myself really harshly for anything I put out. So it's in the combination of things as well.
So would you like to share what your name was before and how sort of that was a mismatch with your birth number?
Sure. So I was born on the 28th of July. And when you're born on the 28th, you find the digit sum to find your base number. So 2 + 8 is 10. 1 + 0 is 1. So I'm a 1 in numerology. And this this base number is connected to the sun sign of Leo. So if you know a little bit of astrology, you know about like the ego of the Leo, the wanting to be first, wanting to be best, wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard. There's like a childlike quality. All of this we can kind of transfer. It's the same in numerology because all of the great esoteric sciences kind of agree on their core expression. So all of this one energy, all of this leadership that's in it, that's what I'm supposed to express in the world. I'm supposed to go first. I'm supposed to speak up. I'm supposed to say, this way is the way we're going. And my old name was Ava Christine Leipert. And the vibration between, or like behind these numbers is 12, 29, and 31. And 12 is the victim. You lose what you get, like what you have. We can't lose what we don't have. So like the loss is not like outside of us. It's like we lose what we have. So we get stuff and then we lose it. And I grew up with like an alcoholic parent and a lot of dysfunction. And it was a constant loss, not just of, I think from the outside, people are like, oh, you were like, you know, an only child or something. You probably got a lot of attention. I probably didn't get the attention I wanted. And I probably had a lot of supporting to do. I had to support my mom. I had to be there for her. I had to grow up and be a grown-up and adult very early on. And I kept trying to get away from situations where I lost. So life also felt like a path of running away from things and towards, oh, this is going to be good. Like, this is the course, this is the person, this is the friendship, this is the thing that's going to make me feel good or make me feel better and make me feel seen and heard and all of those things. And every time I lost it. And when the bigger the dream, the harsher the loss. Like, so as an actor, like maybe you apply to schools or parts or something and you lose them. And it's part of like the acting world of hearing no. But with that 12 vibration, it's like you get it, like you get so close and then you lose it, which is hard on anyone. And then my middle name vibration 29 is old grief. And I carried a lot. I mean, this is a vibration that like passes on through my family. It gets very personal. But that's how, like, when I see it as a numerologist with clients, I see like sometimes we carry name vibrations and feelings that are not our own, that don't really come from our experience of life, but comes from other people's experiences of life. So I carried a lot of grief because my mom carried a lot of grief, because her mom carried a lot of grief. And we literally passed that name vibration and that energy on to other people. And even like I could see it in how people spoke about certain names in my family, were like, oh, this is so pretty, this should be passed on. And even when people tried to pick other names that might have other vibrations, they kept getting kind of like sucked back to names that had that vibration. So that's also why I know like it's very hard to do this work on your own, because energetically you are in a certain place and you're going to be attracted to the things that fit that place. And kind of like with therapy or anything else, like you need someone from the outside who says, okay, this is what I'm seeing and this is what I'm hearing you say, and this is how I think we get there, because you're not getting there on your own. And then my last name vibration, 31, is like one of our genius vibrations. So it means you have a very sharp mind, maybe like a attention to detail. When I grew up, I had almost like photographic memory for things, which was really cool when you have to learn lines. I could recite like the whole damn play if someone needed that. But it also gives you this like black sheep or outsider energy where you are maybe not recognized for your genius or your contribution, or your ideas are stolen, which was something that I realized. I mean, now that I'm more in my creative and many years later, I can see that like any idea spoken aloud that you don't follow is free for all. You got to pursue it. You can't just say, oh, this would be fun. And then when someone else like takes that idea and runs with it, you can't be pissy. But I was pissy for many years, because I was like, I mean, ideas came to me. I was a very like creative channel, but I had huge issues with doing them myself, because it was
with
like
the leadership that it was not flow there.
And like that was my combination of numbers. There are other aspects of the numeroscope that one can go into, like life themes and chakras or centers and aura. Like there's a lot of aspects that can show us not just like what was needed in our birth family, but what are people seeing in us? How do we approach life in many ways? But like when I sat in that first session with the numerologist and she kind of like mapped it all out, I was like, oh, this is so horrible. It's like, this is such a shitty life. Like, I mean, my life, like let's not kid ourselves. There were lots of good things in my life. Like I had friendships, I had, good people and whatever, but like the themes were repeating themselves.
And they're not anymore.
No. Oh my God. I got new themes.
And you like
new themes that I have to work on, but because they're like the perfect life with no issues and no challenges and no spiral of up leveling and expansion, that doesn't exist. I mean, we're alive, so we're meant to like transform, and go through a form of evolution. And also at different ages and stages of our life, there will be different issues. And for example, like if you decide to become a parent, a new name is not going to keep you from sleepless nights.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That will be unfair.
Yeah. So like it has definitely transformed my life on an inner and outer level. And that's also like sometimes numerology can also just, I'm really interested in the name change, and that's what I specialize in, because I'm a very practical person, and I think spirituality should be approachable and applicable, and it should change your life. Because it's really nice to have a pretty crystal and some good smelling essential oil, and it might really help your wellness. But if a tool has that ability to really change things, then that's the part that I'm interested in. But sometimes it's also just knowing. I think I could have had that session and then known those like patterns and probably have made some shifts that would have made my life better. But the patterns wouldn't have gone away. It would be my approach to those patterns that might have changed.
I want to jump over to these master numbers. I don't know if that's the expression in English, but we call it that in Norwegian. When you see like 22 or 33 or 44, and I'm curious.
Numbers.
Yeah, angel numbers. So even my ex last boyfriend, he called me sometimes 22 because I saw 22 everywhere. And when I was just doing research now, like an hour ago, it was like I looked up on the time and it was 5:22, and I'm just laughing. Yeah. So could you tell us a little bit about these angel numbers?
Yeah, well, I'm literally finishing my book about angel numbers these days.
Awesome.
So there's a book coming out in the fall, winter about angel numbers. So angel numbers, they are just like, they can be single numbers or sequences of numbers. They could be ascending or descending. They could be, you see your birthday, or they could be like you see 22 or 1111, or like they could be any number, and they could appear absolutely anywhere, like license plates, bank statements, receipts, on your clock. They could happen like maybe you wake up at night at the same time over and over again. They could also be seeing things in sequences. So maybe I have people who are like, I keep seeing 333, but then I saw 3 swans, and now I'm noticing like groups of animals in threes, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that messages is clearly like coming through strong. So angel numbers are definitely like signs and messages from the angels or the universe or your higher self, whatever you feel like connected to in that way. And they're usually like a green light, like, or a signpost that says you're doing good, you're doing well, like you're where you're supposed to be. But behind every number, there's like slightly different messages. They're usually like just positive, affirmative, go ahead, keep going. The higher the number, or like the longer the sequence, the more aspects there can be to it, like different messages behind it. And people who see, I mean, because I have this background as a professional numerologist, I always go with like, well, maybe the number has something to do with your birthday or your name, because I've had people come to me and be like when I do their numeroscope and I give them their name vibrations, I had someone where the name vibrations were literally 22, 33, 44. And the person was like, this is so crazy. I think they actually got a little scared, because they were like, I have played these lotto numbers for the last 15 years and I did not know this. And so I think they were like, this is too crazy that like it's literally like my line of life, like the name in the numeroscope, we call it line of life. And they had been playing it, trying to win for 15 years. I was like, yeah, I understand. That's a little crazy. So I always go like, well, maybe the number has something to do with your birthday. And if it does, or your name, and if it does, then it's probably a lesson that you're either missing out on or could like zoom into more. So like if someone, what is your birthday?
27th of March, 1980.
Okay, so you're 9. Yeah, 1980. Yeah, so you don't have it. You don't have it in there, but I would say 27.
But it's in my family. Like like it's been deaths, weddings, birthdays, a lot with 22. Like my family has lived in the street number 22.
Yeah.
It's not just me.
Yeah, I'm wondering, it might be somewhere in your name then. So 22 and the vibration of like 4 energy, because we always use the digit sum. So 22 has that 4 energy. So if it was a name vibration, then it would have to connect to seeing the good in other people to a fault, like seeing the light, seeing their soul, seeing their potential, and acting accordingly, and then realizing after a while that everyone is just human and that they are not living up to their potential and that maybe they can't be trusted. Like that could be like an experience of someone carrying that name vibration, that they would be very kind and very trusting, but take the advice of people who shouldn't be trusted, or like being taken advantage of. But in general, 4 vibration is always transition and evolution. So when we see a lot of 4, then it's like things are shifting from one state to another. 4 is the energy of the rebel. So it's like we think outside the box. Things are always in upheaval. There's kind of like that roller coaster energy in it. There could be something, if it's like repeated, it could be karmic. Like I have signed up for a certain level of roller coaster-ness in my life. And it intensifies. I would also say you as a 9, like 9 energy intensifies everything. If you add 9 to any number, it repeats itself. So if you add 9 to 4, you get 13, which is 4. So adding you to any 4 mix is kind of like adding an extra battery pack. So you might also feel that 4 energy even more than other people. Or maybe that's why you're noticing it, that there is a potential for change. And then it's like, well, are you going to support that change? Follow through? Or are you just going to be like, it's fine, I'm good, I'll just sit here and watch it? I mean, you're a 9. It's the final leadership number. You should probably follow through. You should probably be the change maker. You should probably be the one who says, like, the buck stops here with me.
All right. So when I see that, that is a symbol of, it's a message, and 22 is 4. So I shouldn't think about 22 is more what the 4 represents.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, It's creative potential. I mean, 4 is always change. So it's also like it's inevitable. The people who have the hardest time in life are the people who have the hardest time with change. So everything changes all the time. I would also say, like, we can talk about general meanings for the angel numbers. I mean, I've written a whole book about it with a lot of general meanings, but angel numbers are usually kind of like the gateway drug to deeper spiritual understanding. So I always say, like, well, what was going on in your life, both like on a like higher perspective, like on a big perspective, like really zoom out in your life, like say, what is happening this year or in this series, like season of my life? Is there something there that connects to the number 4, that energy? Or is it something like today, right now, how I'm thinking? Maybe the message is that my thoughts are stuck. Because to me, it's like angel numbers are messages from your spiritual team. And they're usually saying, hey, I got a message. Do you want to hear it? And then, yeah, you want to hear it. So you should make time for contemplation. Maybe you want to meditate. If you're not a passive meditator, like if you don't like to sit down and quiet your mind, you could devote like, okay, I'm going to do the dishes. And as I do the dishes, I'm going to clear my mind and see if some message comes through. I find sometimes that's easier for people to be like, I'm going to vacuum the house. And as I vacuum the house, I'm going to like focus on my breathing and see if this like message of 22, if there's like deeper levels, something more coming through. Maybe I'm solving the problem.
So it's kind of both. Like one message is that you're doing okay, keep going, but another message is also to look deeper and look within.
Yeah, I mean, to me, whenever people are like, what does this sign mean? I'm like, not to be annoying, but what do you think the sign means? Like, what is going on? Like, have you reflected? Like if this message is repeating itself, you have a lot of information. When does it show up? Are you alone? Are you with other people? What are you thinking about? How are you doing in your body? What's going on in your life? Have you taken time? Like they say that like if you're everyone should meditate half an hour a day, and if you're really really busy, you should definitely meditate an hour a day. So sometimes I'm like, well, if messages are coming, how much time are you devoting to like listening to them? Because angel numbers over time could also just be a confirmation, yeah, that you're doing good. But if you're really thinking, what is it? What is this? Then I'm like, well, let's sit down and figure it out. I can't meditate for you. I know that's annoying, but like I can give you a general sense of what the numbers mean on a general level. But we all know that like we have like personal little quirks and understandings, and maybe it's like a physical sensation that you get where like, oh, I get this physical sensation and then I see this number and then I know I'm in the right place at the right time, or I know I'm shying away from something.
Interesting. So many ways to interpret this.
Yeah, and whatever resonates. I mean, angel numbers are very open to interpretation.
All right. So I have a feeling, or I think, I mean, scientists would say everything is mathematics in the universe. And I'm fascinated by that. For instance, Fibonacci numbers, like how a tree is balancing, how there's balance in everything. Do you also think that everything is numbers? Like that? Yeah, basically like Matrix a bit. That what makes me go from A to B is numbers, and if I encounter you is numbers. If I encounter you on the street, like everything is numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I think none of the esoteric sciences that I have kind of encountered could exist without numbers. You couldn't do astrology or human design or numerology. You couldn't do anything without numbers. You couldn't do communication without numbers and letters, like computers, technology, the internet, any of like these things, they wouldn't exist without numbers and being able to calculate like the relationship between different parts and distances and stuff like that. So yeah, I think everything is numbers. And I think like I have worked with people who've gone far with this, and like started to like wanting to calculate sports teams and like who's going to win based on their base numbers, their name vibrations, their daily vibrations, their yearly cycles, and like nerded out. I've known people who apply it to the stock market and stuff like that. So like I think you could apply it to anything if you go deep enough. To me, I'm like, it's just I think it's important to use any tool in the most productive way. So I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole where I rely too much on the tool and too little on myself.
That makes sense.
To me, that's also like, it needs to empower you, and you want it to empower you to like the full extent. But then once you're there, you need to let go. It's kind of like acting. Like you can learn your lines, put on your costumes, prep your emotional state that you have to have. And then as soon as you step on stage, you have to trust that you've done the work and that now it wants to reveal itself to you.
That is so true. Remember that.
Yeah. And I mean, life is a little bit like you can prep to a certain extent and then you have to trust.
Yeah. So just to come full circle, for those who don't want to go as far as change their names yet or at all, what is the benefit of learning your base numbers from your base number from your birthday, like you're teaching in the masterclass?
Confirmation of who you really are. I think it's so helpful to be seen. Some people say it's a cliche, like, oh, it's cliche, everyone wants to be seen. I'm like, it's so important as a human being to be seen for who we truly are. And it's so important to get permission. Of course, no one should have to give you permission, but I feel like it's something we all need, like permission to be ourselves. Like, I'm not wrong for being who I am or thinking in the way I do or having these desires or goals or even these like this trauma, because we're only heard on who we truly are. Like, you're a 9, so if I told you that you were, I don't know, if it was mean and bullying and I told you were a silly little girl who was just emotional, had no drive in her life and like just was like floating around like some brainless butterfly, you'd be like, that's really stupid and I don't even feel hurt because that's not who I am. But if I told you as a 9 that you sometimes come off as bitchy and know it all, and that like you want too much and you speak too loud and you're too driven and it's not very feminine or whatever, maybe you'd be like, okay, maybe I've heard some of this before, and maybe I do know that I have opinions, and maybe some of it is like less ladylike than some other people would have wanted. Then the trauma and the hurt is like where you truly live. So learning about your base number can make you realize, okay, I'm supposed to be this. I have permission to be this. People might have a problem with it, but fuck them. I'm just gonna do it anyway. And I think also, like, I think about it in the world in terms of like gender sometimes, because the numbers don't care about gender at all. Like 9 is a masculine number, so it's going to have some of the aspects that we assign to men, but the number doesn't care. It wants to express leadership through you and the body you were born in, and like the face you have and the opinions you have. And so you will have to deal sometimes with the world's opinions about how women are supposed to act or do, or how big they grow. That's also like the glass ceiling inside of us comes from our society, not necessarily from our numbers.
So then we're, as humanity, we're divided then into 9 different groups. Yes. And to know more about yourself, you can then add the name.
And you could add the name. You could look at your yearly base number that comes from like just adding the numbers in the year you were born. You said 1980. Yeah, that's a cool birthday. I'm not gonna get I'm not gonna get into that. But like you could look at that too. You could look at the day you were born. You could look at your sun sign. Maybe it supports that energy, or maybe it's slightly different. And you could look at the yearly energy, and the yearly energy would tell you something about your inner experience. So the things that people might not see. It could also be the energy that when it gets too scary for you to be a 9, you could retreat into that second energy and be like, oh, it's a little bit safer in here. People are not so attacking me for being this or the other, you know. So sometimes we also do that. Everyone does that, like retreats into our secondary energy, where we feel a little bit more safe.
Yeah, so it's a bit more complex than just 9 numbers.
Yeah. I mean, like anything, there's a lot of complexity to it. But just learning your first base number and giving yourself permission to be that, and also like validating your experience. Oh yeah, like read with you, leadership. Like you're just gonna have an opinion about leaders, how they're doing, how they're not doing it, how you could do it better, but maybe you don't want to. Like it's just gonna be there like that, like. I mean, and the lesson of perfectionism, better done than perfect, better done than perfect, better done than perfect. Like it's one of the mantras.
Oh my goodness, I'm such a perfectionist.
Nothing is ever good enough. As soon as you've created it, you could have done it better.
Yeah.
Okay, but like it still needs to be created.
I know. That's a big, like it stops me in so many things. And my goodness.
And it stops your greatness. Sorry, like just let me be like a coach for a moment here, but like that is like, it's never going to go away. And you need to create big things. I have yet to meet a 9 who's not here to create big freaking things.
Interesting.
And it's all about giving yourself permission to like think really big and think really far reaching, and then delegate the shit you don't want to do. Get someone else, whether it's like your laundry or a VA who can take care of details. It's like, 9 is like Empress energy. So it's like you need to have some minions. Your perfectionism says, I can't have minions, I have to do it all myself. But I'm like, you need minions, happy minions that you will treat really well and pay really well. But you need minions. Yeah.
Very fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing this. And I bet you guys who are listening are curious about your numbers. And of course, you're so welcome to join our masterclass that's coming out in April 2023. And it will stay there in the membership. If you're a member, you can read all about it below. And also you can tune into what you're doing. You have a podcast, you have a 2 or 1 book and another coming out. Can you share a bit about how people can reach you?
Yes. Well, you could go to novaliewilder.com and learn more about everything I do. And I also have a free guide to the base numbers. So you could check that out. And a name vibration calculator. So you don't even have to calculate it yourself, like the calculator would do it for you. I have a book called A Little Bit of Numerology, who will teach you like all of this stuff. And have a book called A Little Bit of Angel Numbers that will come out like in the fall, winter of 2023. I have a podcast called The Numerology Podcast, where there are episodes about numerology. And I have a school called the Numerology School, where I teach you to become a professional numerologist. Yeah, I think that's it.
That's awesome. Well,
and I'm on all the social media platforms too, mostly on Instagram. But yeah, so Novalie Wilder on Instagram as well.
Wow, so cool that you got that name for that podcast. I assume many other numerologists wanted that name.
Sometimes you got to know that like it's all meant to be, that no one had bought the domain, the numerologyschool.com, that no one had bought the domain, the numerologypodcast.com, or any of the social media platforms. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, because I think many people are doing this. I don't know that many teachers, but I mean, it's quite well known. So
yeah,
kudos to you.
Well, I mean, this is like a business thing, but like it just needs to be simple. I want to be found when people Google numerology school or numerology podcast. So I was like, we're not going to be super creative here. We're just going to pick what it is and hope that people find it.
Yeah, and you're all about the name, so
yes.
Well, this was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today and your perspectives. And all the best with your wonderful, exciting numerology work.
Thank you so much, and thank you for asking such good questions. We covered like some like fun little paths in it.
Thank you. And thank you so much for watching, guys. Much light from the US and Norway. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for watching this video. And if you liked it, please subscribe and like the video or comment below and let me know what you think. And I would also love for you to check out my other videos on YouTube or wisdomfromnorth.com. See you in the next video.